He said immediately, quote, "Today's Supreme Court decision on Donald Trump's immunity claim is far worse than anything I imagined. Under this ruling, a president can order the assassination or jailing of their political rival and be immune. They can take a bribe in exchange for an official act and still be immune. They can organize a military coup to hold on to power and still be immune. Quote, if that sounds mad, that's because it is." That was the response today from Congressman Adam Schiff, who knows something about trying to hold a president accountable. He was the lead prosecutor in the first impeachment of Trump. He then served on the January 6th investigation in Congress after Trump left office. Schiff has been a very frequent target of very explicit threats from Trump. Trump once posted ominously that Schiff, quote, has not paid the price yet for what he has done to our country. He also suggested Schiff should be arrested for treason. That was just days after he appeared to fantasize publicly about executing traitors. He said not just Schiff, but all members of the January 6th investigation should be put in jail. Schiff and his colleagues say they are preparing for Trump to follow through on these threats if he becomes president again. Thanks to today's Supreme Court ruling, a second-term President Trump would have broad new immunity from prosecution for actions he might take against his political enemies. And with looking at the ruling in one very straightforward way, it looks like he would have that immunity almost without limit. Joining us now is Congressman Adam Schiff, member of the House Judiciary Committee, the Democratic nominee in this year's U.S. Senate race in California. Mr. Schiff, it's a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you for taking time.
Good to be with you.
I feel like the seriousness of this ruling is sort of slowly sinking in over the course of the day. I think the initial headlines suggested that it might have had limited scope. But as your reaction indicates, and I think as we're all starting to understand now, this is one of the most far-reaching approaches they could have taken to this issue and goes far beyond what even, I think, conservative observers thought they would do. Do you think that's fair?
I think that's more than fair. It really is difficult to overstate what a dangerous precedent they have set, how they have essentially unshackled the presidency to commit crimes. The court really, without mincing words, has told the American people a president of the United States is fully authorized to commit crime. It is simple as that. The court has found that the rule of law applies to everyone with one exception. It does not apply to the president of the United States. The very person most in need of constraint, because, of course, the president of the United States has the ability, by virtue of the powers of that office, to do the most damage by violating the law. So I don't think anyone could overstate just how destructive this president is. That it comes a few days before July 4th, is another body blow. I'm usually an optimistic person, but it is hard not to see this as a dangerous precedent that will haunt us. And I would not be surprised if the Roberts Court is one day termed the infamous Roberts Court for this decision, among others.
One of the practical consequences of this ruling is that for many of the provisions in the federal indictment of Donald Trump for January 6th for trying to overthrow the government in order to stay in power, the Supreme Court has essentially told the district court, told the trial court, Judge Tanya Chutkan in Washington, D.C., that she should hold evidentiary hearings on what Trump did and whether the things that he did that are part of that indictment should be considered as official acts and therefore immune, or whether they should be the unofficial acts, and I'm not quite sure if those are immune too, but they want her to do factual hearings on what he did. What are you expecting from that implication of today's ruling? What should the public expect?
Well, I don't think the public should expect to find much comfort in that. The Supreme Court did a few things today. It not only opened the door to presidential crime, but it also delayed any accountability for Donald Trump. It waited such a long time to issue, really to the very end, to issue this decision. It remanded it to the lower court. It set such tight boundaries over what actions the court could even consider to be personal in nature and non